Hello everyone, you're on the Crypto Copy Trading Club channel. On March 1st, I launched an experiment to find stable traders on the Binance and Bybit cryptocurrency exchanges. So 2 months have passed, it's time to summarize the results. Let's dive in. Let's start with Bybit. In 2 months on Bybit, we've checked a total of 38 traders, 30 of whom remain for further testing. On Binance, a total of 28 traders were launched and 20 remain for further testing. Now let's take a more detailed look at each exchange, starting with Bybit. The first account. These are 10 traders, including the newly launched ones. But you can already see the statistics for each one here. This month, I only unsubscribed from one trader on this account. This is the trader I unsubscribed from. Let's go to their profile and take a closer look. So, over these 30 days, they have a negative ROI. I unsubscribed because I didn't like their trades. For example, they opened an order trade with 10 times leverage. They entered a short at a price of $3.24. It was right about here on the chart, and after that the price went way up. I didn't like that they didn't do any dollar cost averaging, and now the price is at 5.1, so there's no guarantee it'll come back down. If they'd averaged down in steps, our average entry price would be around here and the trade would have closed in profit. Since that one trade wiped out almost half my balance due to incorrect copy proportions, I decided to pause the subscription. I just can't accept that level of risk. Recall that in early April, I was subscribed to 30 copy traders on Bybit, and I've unsubscribed from 4 of them. Now let me remind you how I select new traders. I have a master spreadsheet where I record all the traders for any given period of time. For instance, in early January, I select a group of traders and record the start date. I base the selection on 90 days of stable trading, as Bybit only provides stats for 90 days. So, these are the ones remaining from the previous periods I selected. For example, these traders were stable as of March 1st, so I added them to my spreadsheet. They were stable through December, January, and February. That's 3 months. After that, I continued to wait and monitor the traders I've listed in the spreadsheet. Only after they've been stable for at least 5 months, ideally 6, do I make a final selection for the future. There's also a blacklist in this spreadsheet. As of today, there are 6,160 authors on the Bybit blacklist. These are authors who, at some point, experienced a drawdown of more than 60%. I'll explain why this is important. Well, at least it's important to me. Previously, over the last 2 years, while testing copy trading with various authors, I repeatedly faced balance liquidations because an author crossed that 60% threshold. Since trade opening proportions are uneven, I've made it a rule for myself to never copy authors who have had a drawdown of over 60%. To populate this author blacklist, I've developed some scrapers, and I run them every single month. They provide me, for each author, all the statistics are displayed here, and at this point I can very simply add a filter to the data if I want to. For example, let me show you the table for April specifically. And as you can see, we have the maximum drawdown value listed right here in this section. Yes, I just adjust the filter. And here's the number of authors who experienced a drawdown of more than 60%. In April, there were, in total, 1,241 authors who fell into this category, out of a much larger group of 9,848 authors overall. And so, returning to my main working spreadsheet, if I manually select an author and add them to the table, Excel immediately highlights if they were already added, so I can see which block they're in. Yes, of course, at some point in their trading, an author might over-leverage, cross the 60% mark, then adjust their strategy and become more stable afterward. But at least for now, since there's a wide choice of other authors, I'm not subscribing to them yet. But in the future, I'll be making some notes for myself so I can potentially resubscribe. That is to say, if the author, for instance, manages to maintain consistent trading stability over the course of an entire year, then that means a full year has gone by since they last experienced that significant 60% drawdown. In other words, it has been a whole 12 months since that major loss occurred. Since I have these scrapers now, I'm able to collect monthly data. Over the course of a year, once I have gathered data from all the exchanges I'm interested in, I can merge it together for a much more detailed historical analysis. Now let's get back to the authors I've chosen to replace the ones I unsubscribed from. First author, 23% ROI over 90 days, only a 2% drawdown, and look at that smooth, stable profit growth chart. Second author, 49% ROI, 7% drawdown, here's the chart. Third author, plus 45% over 90 days, 6.92 drawdown, also a very nice chart. The fourth author has 35%, a 13% drawdown. The chart isn't as smooth as I'd like, but it's within the acceptable range. And now let's move on to analyzing the Binance statistics. There are 20 accounts activated as of today, including 4 new ones. Now, regarding the unsubscribes, in total we've closed out 8 authors. Mostly, it's because of significant losses. I unsubscribed from these 4 authors back in April, and these, accordingly, the first 4 authors are the ones I followed in early April. Selecting traders on Binance is much easier because Binance provides statistics for 365 days. We have the opportunity to choose those authors who have been stable throughout the entire year. Well, now let's summarize the overall results for the 2 months. On Bybit for March, we ended up with a plus of $614 from 8,700 invested. That's a 7% ROI. April turned out to be very modest due to the liquidation of one of the accounts. Only plus $50 from 12,000 invested. That resulted in less than 0.5% ROI. In total, for 2 months on Bybit, we have $665. In total, 6.48% ROI. Binance for March was plus $58 from 6,000 invested. That's less than 1% ROI. April was a loss-making month, minus $254 from 6,000 invested, minus 4% ROI. In total, Binance for 2 months is minus $204, or minus 3.4% ROI. Summarizing the interim results, of course, I'm unhappy with the Binance results. Primarily, this is due to the mismatch in the copying proportions. I repeatedly noticed that the margin size for the author and the copier differs greatly. And so, if the author takes a loss of, say, 5%, the copier takes a loss of 10, 15, 20%, depending on the total margin size. And here is our final table, where accordingly I've entered all the data for all the traders. Bybit, these are the 8 authors I unsubscribed from. These are the ones that remained. In this column, I calculate the preliminary annual yield and accordingly sort the authors by this parameter. Here's the total for each month, the investment amount, profit, and ROI, and the total for 2 months respectively. And it's all the same for Binance. Now about future plans. After 3 months, it'll be possible to stop following not just those authors who are showing losses, but also those authors who are giving very low profits. For instance, if an author yields less than 10% profit per quarter, you can also unsubscribe from them, provided there is a selection of new suitable ones. Also, next month I want to try launching copy trading, also for 10 authors on Bybit, but in the TradFi section. A section where, accordingly, traders do not trade cryptocurrency, but trade metals, currency pairs, and stock indices. This section on Bybit is quite new, but there is already a huge number of authors here. There is just not enough statistics yet. For long periods of time. I have already started listing them in my spreadsheet. Authors for this section, but as of today, I have only listed 26 authors. To sum up the overall results, I would say that, on the whole, I am probably more satisfied than dissatisfied with the results. Yes, Binance is in the red for us, while Bybit is already showing a profit. But let me remind you, my main goal in this experiment is to find stable authors in whom I can invest more capital. And the goal is to find stable ones, not just over a short period, 2, 3, 5, 6 months, but to find those who will show stability over a year or more. And so, at the moment, I am willing to take losses for the sake of the ultimate goal of finding stable authors. And as always, I would appreciate your feedback and comments on what you would like me to cover in more detail in the future. Also, subscribe to the Telegram channel where all the spreadsheets will be posted.